Through a combination of intelligence, talent, and sheer will, Mellody Hobson has worked her way up to the top ranks of American business. She's the president and co-CEO of Ariel Investments, the nation's oldest Black-owned investment fund. She also serves on a number of corporate boards, including Starbucks, where she is chair, and JP Chase. Now, Hobson's spearheading a new private equity fund alongside industry veteran Leslie Brune called Project Black. Its mission? To get more Black executives into the upper tiers of the business world by connecting them with both customers and capital.
So Project Black was an idea that was born really during all of the strife that occurred after the horrific murder of George Floyd. I had this idea, what if we could scale large minority businesses? Because the data is actually stunning. 95% of Black and brown businesses in this country have less than $5 million in revenue. At the time of all the civil unrest with George Floyd's murder, many corporations were pledging to do more business with Black and brown companies. And one of the things they said was, at that point, they were doing about 2% of their spend, $125 billion with minority businesses, but a goal of 10 to 15%, which means there's a $1 trillion opportunity. But we have the scale challenge because our businesses are so small. So I said, what if we could actually buy middle market businesses by virtue of our ownership, my word, minoritize those businesses, bring in Black and brown executives, change the nature of those businesses with their boards, with their leaders, ultimately create businesses that are the preferred vendors, tier 1 suppliers.
On February 1st, Ariel Alternatives closed its first Project Black fund with $1.45 billion in commitments from investors such as former Microsoft CEO Steve Ballmer, Walmart, Salesforce, and the Qatar Investment Authority. That's on top of an up to $200 million co-investment commitment JP made when the fund was announced. Hobson's determination to see Project Black deliver largely reflects on her character and professional reputation. She grew up the youngest of 6 to a single mother, experiencing financial hardship in her early years. But even with the odds of success stacked against her, Hobson was accepted to both Harvard and Princeton, ultimately choosing the latter. This is how she came to meet John Rogers, the founder of Ariel Investments.
I was volunteering for the Princeton Schools Committee, which is the committee that are in local communities where you're trying to make sure that local alumni are interviewing prospective students. And I was ultimately vice chairman and then chairman of the schools committee, really committed to recruiting diverse students to Princeton. And I met Mellody as a prospective student. She came to all the events I arranged for all students and for minority students. And you could see right then, she was just really special. She had so much charisma, so much energy. She was so thoughtful and smart. You know, she just shined. In this industry, you're going to have some really big ups and some really big downs. And you need a business partner who's going to stick with you through those tough times and be able to not get frightened by the short-term pain, make the tough decisions, use her judgment in the right way. And so I always say there's no one you'd want more to be in a foxhole with than Mellody Hobson.
In its 40 years, Ariel has certainly gone through tough times. The 1987 crash, the dot-com era, and the most harrowing of all, the 2008 global financial crisis. To give you an idea, the fund went from $21 billion in assets under management in 2004 to just $3.3 billion in March 2009. But the fund ultimately rebounded and has managed to continue successfully thanks to its principles. These include its contrarian buy and hold approach and reputation for active patience. With Project Black, there's a particular strategy Hobson is betting on as its keys to success.
When I was growing up through Ariel, John Rogers always used to say to me, the founder of Ariel, when people talk about Black businesses, they talk about access to capital, access to capital, access to capital. And John said to me, access to customers may be more important. Then I went on the board of JP and I was sitting in that boardroom and I realized very quickly, being on the board of the 8th largest bank in the world, the largest bank in America, if you have a fistful of receivables, they will lend you money. So I said the customer is actually more important. The customer becomes the conduit to the capital. And so we stepped back and said to ourselves, we need to create a situation where the customer becomes the way to drive the change.
The total committed to Project Black is 5 times the size of the average first-time private equity fund and brings assets under management at Ariel to just above $16 billion. Project Black's first investment was made last year when it acquired just over 52% of Utah-based Sorensen Communications at an enterprise value of $1.3 billion. And already, big changes have been made. The company went from having 1 person of color in the C-suite and boardroom to 13. And the new CEO is Jorge Rodriguez, a veteran telecom exec who worked with Mexican billionaire Carlos Slim. Over the next 3 to 5 years, Project Black plans to buy and expand platforms in 6 to 10 other supplier segments, such as financial and professional services, healthcare, technology, manufacturing, and logistics.
I think it's a very simple call to action is you put your money where your mouth is. So many people say and state an intention, but coming through is actually financially doing something about it. So in corporate America, there's been so much talk about equality and diversity and equity. Show me the math. Show me the commitment of the dollars. Show me the diversity of the C-suite. Show me the diversity of the board, and I can tell you who's really serious.